Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. This is Nasa's Thread. Today on the channel we'll be learning how to make this stylish kaftan boo gown. So if it's something you're interested in, keep watching. And if you're yet to subscribe to the channel, please subscribe and let's get right into this. So these are the fabrics we'll be using for this. I have this beautiful Ankara print. This is a Kampala fabric, 3 yards of it, and I have this sequence fabric that I'll be using for this. So for the sequence, you'll be needing at least half of a yard. Okay, so what I'll do firstly is to fold my Ankara by the length. So the length of our Ankara is usually 45 inches by length, but the length of the gown I'm working with, it's going to be 50 inches in total. So I folded this by the length so that I can have more length than I should. Okay, so instead of folding this by the yardage, I folded this by the length. I hope you got that correctly so that I can get more length. So after folding this from the center front of my fold, I'm going to mark the neck width of 3.5 inches, and then after that I will mark half of the shoulder measurement I'm working with, which is 8 inches. And then from the 8 inches point, I'm going to measure the length of my sleeve. So if you don't want to go through this way to get the length of your sleeve, you can take your sleeve measurement from the back of your neck to wherever you want your sleeve to end. So I just marked the length I wanted the sleeve to end right there. Also putting in mind that I'll be adding something to the sleeve ends later on. And then I went down by 1 inch for my shoulder slant at that point, and I'll connect it to meet the neck width which I marked earlier. All right, so we have that down. Now for the depth of our neck, this is the back. I'm going to use 1.5 inches for the back. So you can also use 2 inches or 1.5 inches for this area. And I'll just use my free hand to connect a simple C curve there for that. So we want to go in and impute our vertical measurement. So placing this at that end, I'll mark my bust point, shoulder to bust, shoulder to waist. Then I'll mark the shoulder to the hip area, after which I'll mark my full length, ensuring to add hemming allowance to that. So it's always important to add hemming allowance to your measurement, because you'll be folding this whether you're using a lining or you just be hemming the edges. It is important for you to add that. So remember I said I wanted this to be 50 inches. I just added 2 inches to the ends of this, and I will just mark it down at that point. So I'm just ruling my lines across to indicate. Now we're working on the back piece like I said earlier. Okay, so we have all our vertical measurements down. So the next thing we go in to do is to impute our horizontal measurement. Now from the edges of this, firstly we're going to get our sleeve opening. Now you can just decide to extend your sleeve opening to the bust point, exactly that. It makes it wider, it will be more open for you, but I decided to just go up from my bust point by 1 inch. Okay, and I just make it the mark there. Then I went over to my bust area. I took quarter of the round bust measurement, and then I'm going to mark it down. That means your bust circumference divided by 4. Go ahead and mark it down. So after doing that, I added 4 inches to that. Now this is a free dress. If you want to add more allowances to yours, you can do that. So I just added 4 inches to that, and I just used a simple curve to connect to the my sleeve opening I marked earlier. Okay, so that is what we have. Now you can just connect from that chest line measurement to the full length. If you want that to be open, it's still going to fit. But I went on to take the measurement, quarter measurement of my waist, added 4 inches to that, did the same thing at the hip, the round hip measurement divided by 4, and then I added 4 inches to that. Now the 4 inches I'm adding, 3 inches is for the ease allowance, that's how wide I want it to be, while 1 inch extra will be for my joining allowance later on. So I just connected the points I made together, so you can see the curves around this. All right, so if you don't want this, you can just connect from the chest line down to the full length, and from the hip area I will just connect it to the full length of this. Okay, so we have this right now. You can see this all we have for the back. So what we're going to do is to go in with our scissors to cut out the parts we will not be needing. Okay, see, this is what we have for the back. I will just fold this up and keep aside now. Then I'll bring in another folded piece for my front. Remember I said I'm using 3 yards of fabric for this. So there's no zip on this cloth whatsoever. So we have two closed ends. Now I'm placing my back piece on the front material which I've dropped, ensuring that they align, that the center fronts of both pieces are matching perfectly. You can also work with your needles if you're working with a fabric that doesn't stay in place. Okay, so after placing this down, ensure you place them down properly, that they are matching properly. Okay, then after placing this down, you want to go in with your scissors to trace out the side, that's the body of this. So what I just did was to mark the neck width also for that of the front. I just used the back neck width to trace out that of the front, so that I am not mistaken when I'm cutting out the front neckline later on. So I just went in with my scissors to follow the pattern, the curves I have around the back, to trace out my front piece also. Okay, so there we have it. So I'll just make my mark back again so that it's visible, and then I'll take off my back piece. Now for the front neck width, the front neck depth, sorry, you need to use something wider than usual. Okay, if you use 3 to 3 inches, you would not be able to put your neck, or your client will not be able to. So you need something wide enough for the neck to go through, since there is no zipper on this. So I decided to use 5 inches for mine, and I just connected that in a simple C-curve. So if you want this to be freer around the neck area, you can use 6 inches, but be careful of the allowance, the neck depth you're using, so that it doesn't look so hollow around the neck area. Okay, so the next one to cut out is our design for the front. So I'm going to bring in my piece for that. Now you can use any piece of your choice to do that. So I bought this fabric about 2,000 naira per yard at the market, and I decided to use it for this client's clothes. So I'm going to just fold up one end of this like so. So I'm going to fold this as much as I want it to get. Now the first thing that indicates my fold is how much I want it to get into the shoulder area, because it's going to get into the shoulder areas. So I'll place my Ankara piece on top of it first, and then take note of what I have, and then I adjusted it again. So that helps you to know if you want it to be off the shoulder or you want it to be on the shoulder by the time you finish making this dress. Okay, so you need to take note of that. So after adjusting it, I'll place my Ankara piece back on top of it, and I have it exactly the way I want it to be. So I'm going to place this properly. Remember, no wasting. Okay, so we're not going to waste any part of this. So I placed this together. I just used my chalk to trace out what I had for the front neckline on this piece, because this piece stays in front. So I just trace that out, after which I will use my scissors to take off what I had. All right, so when I finished doing this, actually after cutting this part, I noticed that because the fabric I'm using has like a plain side at the top area, and I didn't want that to be showing on the shoulder area. Okay, so I noticed that while I was cutting, and I decided to adjust this back. So I took it down a little bit. I didn't want the plain areas to be showing on the shoulder area at all. I just want the sequence details to be everywhere around the neckline and the shoulder. Wherever this black piece is going to appear should be the sequence detail and no plain area whatsoever. So I adjusted it back downwards and then took out what I had. And then after that, I just went ahead to trace out my shoulder area so that they are matching with what I have for my neckline, the neck piece of the front. So after doing that, I will take off the front piece fabric now. So what we want to do is to determine the length of our piece. So um, from the depth of our neck, I went down by 20 inches because that is how long I want this to get to. If you want it to be short, you can adjust that. If you want it to be long, it totally depends on your preference and what you want. So I just marked 20 inches there. Then I'm going to use my rule to connect it to the other edge of the shoulder area like so. So just watch how I connect this. So you want to place your ruler properly to connect this, okay? So that it's not bent, you don't have your lines looking funny. So you notice the first line I drew wasn't straight, and I noticed that, and I went in with my rule and my chalk and made some adjustment to that to ensure that I had this accurately. After doing that, I just went ahead to cut it out. All right, so this is what we have. So this is what it looks like. So you can see this is easy. And if we're placing this on top, so when you finish cutting, you want to place it on top of your front piece to ensure that they are matching accurately. So I placed this on top of it so you can see how nice this looks already. It's already giving us that vibe. Okay, giving us that fine vibe already. The next thing I want to do is to start working on our piece. Earlier on, I was supposed to trace out my pocket points on this before taking off my piece. So I started to place my front piece and then my back piece together, still ensuring that the areas of both pieces are matching accurately, okay? So that I can mark out my pocket width. Now, what I'm going to do is that from the waist point, that's my half length point, I'll go down by 1 inch. I'll make a mark there. Then from that 1 inch point, I'll determine how wide I want the pocket to be. So I decided to use 7 inches for the wideness of the pocket. You can decide to make yours wider, but ensure you're doing something that looks nice, okay? And then I just went in with my scissors to make marks at those points so that I am not confused later on when I'm working on this. So now for the pocket, I've gone ahead to cut out this piece. It measures 7 inches in width and I had about 11 inches in length. Okay, that was the length I wanted for my pocket. So remember I said I used 7 inches for the wideness. So whatever wideness you're taking for your pocket piece needs to match with that. So I just adjusted this one because it was a bit bigger than what I needed. So what I'll do now is to take up one piece. We're about to stitch our pocket piece to this. So you'll be needing 4 pieces for your pocket, 2 for each side, 2 for each side. So what I'm going to do is to place this right side to right side, following the mark I made earlier for my pocket width, and I'll go ahead and stitch it by 1/2 inch. I'll repeat the same thing on the other side, place it right side to right side, stitch it down, and do the same thing to the other piece. So this is what I have after I finish stitching it down. This is my back piece, as you can see. And for that of the front also, I did the same thing, and you can see how this looks. So you want to ensure you place this right side of your fabric to the right side of your pocket piece so that you don't have this looking tacky inside. Everything is to come out looking neat. So now we're going to work on our sequence piece. For the edges of our sequence, since we have this all rough, you can decide to just fold this in. Okay, just fold this in order to take off the rough edges. But in this case, I'll be using a bias. All right, I'll just use my bias to pipe around this. So you can start your piping from the front side of your piece to the back, or from the back side of your piece to the front, whatever side you want to. So I'll go ahead and just pipe this up and show you what it looks like. So this is what I have after I finished piping it. Okay, I just wanted to try out something new, so you can just simply fold this in if you don't want the stress. Okay, so this is what it looks like after I have finished doing this. It came out looking all nice and came out looking all sweet. So we're about to place this on our piece. We're about to start stitching it together. Now you want to place this on the wrong side of your fabric, that's your main piece, and ensure you're placing it on your the front piece of your fabric also. So we're going to place the right side of our sequin piece to the wrong side of our fabric piece, match them along the neckline, and go ahead and stitch it down round by 1/2 inch. You want to ensure you stitch this down properly. So this is what it looks like after I finished. I've stitched it down. I'll just go in with my scissors to make notches on this. So ensure you're placing your piece wrong side of fabric to right side of your sequence. Okay, so after making the notch, I'm going to flip this to the right side. So I'm going to flip my sequence piece to the right side of the fabric, so you can see how this comes in. Making those notches around the neckline makes it easier. By the time you finish pressing this with an iron, it will just give it a very relaxed feel at that end. You don't have the neck area bulging. Okay, so what we want to do next is to iron that part. So we're going to iron this down so that it stays in place properly. Now to do this, I will be using my hemming gum for this. So I'm going to place my hemming gum in between my stitched area towards the main fabric piece. So I'll place this underneath that piece, place it all around, and go ahead and give it a very good press. So this is what I have after I finish. You can see how this looks. So the essence of that is so that your fabric is not showing from the neck area. You have the black piece covering everywhere. Now also use my hemming gum to close down the sides of this on the edge area before I go on and stitch it down. So the hemming gum is going to help to keep this in place. By the time I stitch this down, it doesn't move, it's not moving about, and I can stitch this down easily. So this is what I have after I did that. So I hemmed it firstly, and then I went in with my hemming gum to hem. I hemmed it firstly before stitching it. Okay, so what we want to do is to start joining our piece together. I'm going to align this shoulder to shoulder, right side of my back piece to the right side of my front piece. Align the shoulders together. So this is what I did. I've stitched it down, and this is what it looks like. Okay, so this is what we have it looking like from the right side of the fabric. You can see how nice this looks. So if you want your neck to be wider, you can go ahead and do that. And don't forget to pipe the neckline of your back piece. Now for the sequence detailing the wrist area. Remember I mentioned we're going to be placing that around the wrist area. So I'll go ahead and take the measurement I have around this end. After taking that measurement, I'll cut out the piece. So this is what I have after I did that. In this case, I'm using a width of 5 inches against a length of 14 inches. So I'm going to place it right side to right side, and I go ahead and stitch them together. So you can decide to use more of your sequence detailing around the arm area or use less, whatever works for you or whatever you want. So I'm going to place this right side to right side. So you place this the right side of your fabric to the right side of your sequence piece, place them together, stitch it down by 1/2 inch, then you flip it over, then hem the edge of this so that it gives it a neat finishing. So this is what I have after I finished doing that. You can see how this came out looking nice, and I went ahead to hem the edge so that it gives it a nice finishing. Now I'm going to flip my piece to the wrong side, flipping this to the wrong side of my fabric. We want to join the sides together. So you can work with your pins in this case, place them properly together, ensure they are matching, ensure the pocket areas are matching, ensure the sides are matching perfectly so that you can stitch this accurately. So after placing this way, I'll go over to the machine and I'll just stitch it down by 1 inch on the sides. So starting from the armhole area, I'll stitch it down by 1 inch. Then I will stitch into my pocket areas by half of an inch, stitch it round and then go back to 1 inch on the sides. And then I'll repeat the same thing on the other side, starting from the arm area, stitch it down and then stitch to the pocket to the full length. So this is what I have after I finish. This is what the gown looks like after I finished. So I'm not giving this a very good ironing. I'll do that later on. So I went ahead to also hem the edge of the gown. So I'll place this on my manic to give a better view. So this is the final look of our dress. Let me know what you think about this and let me know if you found this tutorial helpful. If you're yet to subscribe to the channel, please subscribe, give this video a thumbs up. Turn on notification bell so you'll be notified whenever I post a new video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.